What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com. And tonight I am joined by Michael Darcy from KC Sports Report to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC Championship game and moving on to Super Bowl 57. For those of you that didn't already know, Michael was at the game last night because he works at the stadium, and so we didn't get to do anything last night, but I still wanted to bring him on and talk about this game because why not make another video talking about this game? That was a freaking fantastic game. But Michael, I saw your video last night that you uploaded from the stadium, and I just loved it because it was in the moment. Even the music fit the video, the music they had in the background. Oh, gosh, what was that song called?
It Can't Hold Us by Macklemore.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect, having that in the background. Your analysis was perfect, even despite all the emotions. That was awesome. But let's just start with this. Explain that experience. Just go ahead.
Listen, I fully plan on getting married, having kids. That shit's not going to top that. That was one of the best moments of my life. Just being in that stadium, being in that environment when it went down. I mean, you saw that video. Part of it was that I had to scream to get through over the music. My voice was gone. Like, literally, I had to scream to get through to the camera because my voice was just completely shot. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect the Chiefs to win this game. There was 2 minutes left in the game, and Joe Burrow had the ball, and I kind of got some PTSD, but the Chiefs found a way to get it done by any means. And I think that when you boil it down, the Chiefs just wanted this game more than the Cincinnati Bengals. And I know that might sound weird to some people. Like, how could you not want the AFC Championship game? I just think the Chiefs, this was an over my dead body game. This literally was. And this time, it was a Chris Jones over my dead body game because he single-handedly put the defense on his back, and that's why we're going to the Super Bowl in Arizona.
He was the MVP of that game. Chris Mother effing Jones. The whole playoff sack statistic, and I talked about this last night, and I ran my victory lap, and I'm like, all you Chris Jones haters, all you people that wanted to trade Chris Jones, suck it, because Chris Jones is the best damn defensive player on this team, and if you were to trade him, this defense would not be the same. Chris Jones is the reason they won last night. Chris Jones has been dominant in the postseason for his entire career. I don't care if he didn't have any sacks. And last night was just the culmination of it all. He finally got those sacks, and he broke through. He wrecked the game. And that sack, when the Bengals, or after the Bengals got the ball back with 2 minutes left, that was, at that moment, I realized, yeah, Chris Jones is not going to let us lose this game. Like, almost felt like the football gods were trying to make the Chiefs lose. Mahomes has an ungodly fumble that just never happens. And for some reason it happens right there. And the Bengals, tie the game up after that. Just terrible timing. Like you said, the life was kind of sucked out of the crowd at the stadium after that Mahomes fumble. But Chris Jones said, "It's all right, guys. I got this." And he won this game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And Michael, what did we talk about all week long? The Chiefs were not going to win this game if the pass rush did not step up. Not only did they step up, they sacked Joe Burrow 6 times. It wasn't as good as the 2020 Super Bowl where the Buccaneers just beat up on Patrick Mahomes all game long, but it was pretty close, man. I mean, they were getting to Joe Burrow all night. They were harassing him. Mike Dana, Colin Saunders, Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap. There was not a single defensive lineman that had a bad game last night. They were not going to let the Chiefs lose that game. And the unsung heroes, I guess you could say unsung heroes just because the defensive line is the big story, but the defensive backs, 4 rookies playing in that secondary, Brian Cook, Trent McDuffie, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, and the 2 day 3 picks both got picks in this game. And those were huge because those stopped the Bengals from scoring. Those are huge turning points of the game. And that was a Steve Spagnuolo masterclass, man. It really was.
And, you miss certain stuff when you're in the environment and you're in the stadium. And kind of going back to the offense, I didn't realize that Patrick Mahomes was missing. I saw Kadarius Toney go out, so I knew that he wasn't going to come back.
My God, they were dropping like flies.
Didn't see Juju. I saw McCole. But at one point I look up and I'm like, is that Marcus Kemp? And then he caught a pass. I was like, what is going on? But for him to go through all of that on a bum ankle, throw into Marcus Kemp in the AFC Championship game is incredible. And defensively, the defensive backs, man, that game you could give so much credit to Brett Veach because he's the guy that made those picks. Steve Spagnuolo's utilized them perfectly, but he's the guy that brought them to Kansas City. And it's just all of them have worked out so well. Isaiah Pacheco, he didn't look great last night, but he ran the ball.
He was clutch on those dump offs, though.
Exactly. And then who
The
was the
rushing
other seventh
yeah.
rounder?
Jalen.
I'm thinking of Jalen.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, though, like Pacheco, like his rushing stats weren't great, but like the dump offs and that one where it looked like he was done, like 2 Bengals players were wrapping him up, and he somehow breaks free to get into Bengals territory. That was fantastic.
The late round drafting, man, it's what won them this game, which is absurd to say. But I said this on Twitter today. Chris Jones, he should go into this offseason if he has one more good game where the Chiefs just take care of the Eagles. They get to Jalen Hurts like 5 or 6 times. He's going to walk into Brett Veach's office and demand a blank check, and he should get a blank check because he has earned it. Like this is Aaron Donald type stuff, guys.
Like I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like he should go in there and be like, give me the Mahomes contract. Like, because he deserves it, arguably.
He's the Mahomes of the defense, and I wouldn't give it to him because of his age and he's a defensive player, but he should be the highest paid player at his position, and it shouldn't be close. The way that he was able to impact that game last night, Frank Clark really is playoff Frank Clark. I think we could put that rumor to bed. He showed up too, but like we said, that was going to be the single biggest key to the game. Could they get to Joe Burrow? They got to Joe Burrow, and they won this game. I think that the 2 interceptions were caused by the defensive line, and I kind of thought that they would feed off of each other. Like, if our defensive line was really good, it would take less pressure off of our DBs to be great. Because let's face it, it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins going up against Jalen Watson, who I'm not trying to discount Jalen Watson, but that's a mismatch. And Snead was out of the game, but they were just able to get it done somehow, some way. I think this game, the reason that, you know, we might feel like it was better than the divisional round against against the Bills, because it just kind of felt like a gutsy team win where it genuinely took every single aspect of this game to win.
Well, and it felt like it was such an unlikely outcome. Maybe you would argue that 13 seconds left in the game, the Chiefs shouldn't have won that one, but this one, like, there were a couple different points where I thought they lost, or I thought the game was over, especially when they punted the ball back to the Bengals. Like, am I wrong for saying 90% of the time when a team gets the ball back with 2 minutes left, they win the game when it's a tie game?
I was surprised they punted it back. And on the Bengals side, I might have gone for it. I know that sounds crazy, but you knew what the outcome was going to be. Why would you give it back to him? I'd at least dude, with the amount of times that they were converting to Jamar Chase 27 yards downfield, you'd think that they would try something. And
that was the only thing that was the only bad thing about the defense yesterday. It's just all the third, and that's always been a problem with Steve Spagnuolo's defenses, is like third and however long. They always seem to give up that play for a first down. And it's like Hayden Hurst was wide open on 3rd and 16 on that final offensive drive by the Bengals. And it's like, how is one guy, especially Hayden Hurst, that wide open on 3rd and 16? Now, I'll give Spags a little bit of slack. I said this last night, because those are a bunch of rookie DBs and they made some mistakes for sure. But one thing that Spags did do that I really liked, and there was nothing else he could do regarding the results of the play, where they chucked it to Jamar Chase on 4th and 6 into double coverage, and he somehow came down with it. The T. Higgins touchdown where he just mossed Jalen Watson, like that I can live with, because Spags went man-to-man with his guys, and guess what? The Bengals receivers just made amazing catches, man. Like, they're just amazing receivers, and I can live with that. But what I didn't want to see was cheap yards given to the Bengals by playing soft zone coverage, and they didn't really do that last night. They manned up on them, and it worked out for the most part.
They learned from that Buffalo game. That Buffalo game, it sucks for Buffalo, but we learned a lot. I don't think the Chiefs would have tried that, but you never know. Spags might have tried to throw them off by doing it.
And they did it in the regular season game, and Tony Romo said as soon as the game started on the broadcast, because the Bengals started with the ball, he's like, the Chiefs, last time they played them, they gave that soft zone, and I don't think they're going to do it this time. And he was right.
And it was, we said that all week too. our best versus your best. We want to see who's going to win. And they won some, but overall the Chiefs DBs stood the test. And man, that's a really big encouraging thing going into this Super Bowl. It's going to be a really good game. I mean, both teams are very good, but at this point, man, the Chiefs are playing their best football on every side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, going into this, I said, me and you both said, like, I trust the offense to do their thing.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom?
Did not mean to do that. There you got your double dose of Noah Gray, though. No, I said I trust the offense to do their thing, but what is the defense going to do? The defense carried them throughout the entire game. The offense was the ones who, weren't really in sync. And granted, they had a bunch of guys go down. Mahomes was one-legged and MVS was his wide receiver one, which is freaking incredible considering he threw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. But, yeah, man, the defense carried them, and it's not something I expected. Like, they performed beyond expectations last night.
Yeah, and I trusted the Chiefs, but when there's 2 minutes left and you gave the ball back to Joe Burrow, after seeing what he has done to us the past 3 times, I'm an optimistic guy. I like to think I'm optimistic. I was not optimistic. I thought we just gave the game away, because then I was starting to do the mental math, like, do we start calling timeouts so we have more time on the clock? Like, are we going to have to get the ball back with a minute? Like, I was really not that confident in our defense, but Chris Jones said, hold on, we're going home.
Yeah, he did. And I want to give myself a shout out, because when we made our X Factors video, I said that Brian Cook would be a factor in this game. And I predicted that he would have an interception. Now, he didn't have an interception, but he pretty much had the assist on that interception that Joshua Williams had, because he tipped that ball in the air. That was a big, huge play by Brian Cook. And he had some rough moments in yesterday's game, and he had a couple bad penalties, but he showed up, as well as everyone really on that defense. I mean, I don't have a bunch of bad things to say about people on defense in that game. That was an amazing effort. It really was.
I mean, we talked about it all season. Those are just the lumps that you expect to take with rookies. They won you this game, Josh. Like, the fact that they were able to kind of shake off some pretty lousy mistakes, it speaks a lot to, their confidence and just how the Chiefs have them playing. Because I'm not gonna lie, if you put me in that position and I'm getting beat, I would have second thoughts. But they, to their credit, they stuck in there and they just held on. At the end of the day, they just held on, and they were good enough to get the job done.
It's incredible. I really couldn't have predicted it. And that game that's why I say it's better than that Bills divisional round last year, because, I mean, like you said, the gutsiness, like, it just felt like such an unlikely outcome. Nothing was going the Chiefs' way. It's like, oh my God, here they go. They're collapsing again against the Bengals. Why can't they beat this team? Everything seems to go wrong. They were settling for field goals a bunch of times. They couldn't get that one more touchdown that they needed. It felt like for the entirety of like the third and fourth quarter, okay, one more touchdown and this thing's pretty much over. And they just couldn't get it. They were gifted a free down by the officials. I mean, that was probably one of the weirdest things you've ever seen as well, I'm assuming. They gave the Chiefs a free down, and the Chiefs, even despite that, punted anyway. They couldn't even gain a yard. And it's like, man, this offense, and the running game wasn't there all night. The offensive line wasn't really getting any push in the run game, and all the weapons went out. Juju went out with the knee. Tony went out with the ankle injury, and Tony's injury actually looked kind of scary on TV, and I feel bad for the guy, because I really feel like he was going to have a big game before he went down, and he almost had a touchdown. It would have been an insane catch had he made it. I don't get mad at him for dropping that, though, but I really feel like he was going to have a big game in this one, and then he goes down. And I just hope all those guys are going to be ready for the Super Bowl, because it's going to be all hands on deck in the Super Bowl. And I also said this last night, the matchups really don't get much easier against the Eagles. Like, you think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are a tough duo to stop. Yeah, they are, but Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown have been as good as anybody this year.
Not trying to get too far off of this game, because I want to talk about this game and kind of relive.
Yeah, because we'll have all next week for the Eagles.
Exactly. But I will say that conquering the demon that was the Cincinnati Bengals was my biggest question mark. They've done that. I think that even for them was their biggest, not only mental hurdle, but physical challenge as well. I'm not discounting the Eagles. They're a great team. They might be better than the Bengals are, but something about the fact the Chiefs had never beaten them, I mean, you start doubting yourself, man. And I think that's a confident bunch in that locker room right now, because guess what? They did it. They don't have to wonder if they left anything out on the field. They left everything out there, and they were just better.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. And I'm not going to get too ahead of ourselves either, but I'm confident about this matchup with the Eagles because the Eagles didn't really play anybody this year, and they kind of had a Mickey Mouse path to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie. Like the Giants, who massively overachieved this year, and the Niners with Josh Johnson at quarterback, like that's as easy of a path as you can have to the Super Bowl. And it kind of feels like the Eagles haven't faced a lot of adversity this year. Like Jalen Hurts, he got hurt towards the end of the season, but the Eagles, they were fine. They had a good enough record to absorb Jalen Hurts being out for a couple games. It doesn't feel like they really dealt with adversity this year, but with the Chiefs, it feels like they have. And I feel like a lot of times that can sometimes better prepare you for the Super Bowl. Remember in 2020, the Chiefs, they were 14-2 in the regular season, cruised to the Super Bowl, whooped Buffalo in the AFC Championship. And then all of a sudden, when they got punched in the mouth against the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, there was no coming back.
That's a very good point, because I've never seen a football team win games as effortlessly as that 2020 Chiefs team. They would win every single matchup. They would kill teams. And like you said, they never faced any adversity, even in the playoffs. They just easily ran through everybody. But once they got hit, they're like, oh no, I don't know if we can do this. And it's going to mean something. And in fact, I saw something that the only good quarterback or worthy quarterback that the Eagles have played is Dak Prescott. And when he played him, he dropped 40 on him. So,
yeah, the Eagles have not faced very good offenses this year. They had one of the worst strength of schedule, listed games in the league this year. So,
yeah, I mean, we'll see. But my belief, even coming into this AFC Championship game, regardless of the winner, the AFC representative is probably going to win the whole thing. That was my opinion before the Chiefs won. So I'm not going to change my answer. And again, I know I don't blame you for your Bengals pick earlier in the week, but again, I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes. He has shown time and time again that you want to take his receivers? All right. You want to take his linebackers? That's okay. He's going to find a way to win.
Yeah, and how about Marquez Valdes-Scantling, man? 6 receptions for 116 yards and a touchdown last night and absolutely carried this offense. And I wrote an article about him for Arrowhead Addict that'll be coming out soon. And I just got to say, like, he deserves all the praise from Chiefs fans because I feel like he's been a little overhated for a lot of this year. And I also kind of feel like Chiefs fans just kind of assumed that he wasn't going to be on roster next year because he has this really team-friendly contract that they can move on from. And MVS 100% deserves to be on this team next year, especially when you can, not just because I think MVS is a quality receiver, but because your only notable receivers that are under contract next year are Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. Like Juju, there's no guarantee he comes back. McCall Hardman's a free agent. I think you got to keep MVS because you just don't know. There's so much uncertainty at the position. And here you have a steady receiver who has now come up big for you in the postseason. I feel like he's your new Sammy Watkins in a way. Frustrating player. He'll drop a lot of easy passes, but he always comes up with the big ones.
I don't know who is saying we should get rid of MVS. I think that would be very foolish. Do you see his contract? The Chiefs got a steal with that. I don't care if he does drop a few passes here and there.
A lot of people feel like he got overpaid. I thought, given the wide receiver market, you see what Christian Kirk got. I'm fine with MVS for $10 million a year.
If you think Marquez Valdes-Scantling got overpaid, you don't know football right now. The wide receivers are getting paid a ridiculous amount of money. You got him for 3 years for $30 million, and you could void him after 2, and you pay like 11 or something?
Yeah.
No.
Very team friendly.
He'd be worth $30 million for 3 years because that's just what wide receivers go for. I guarantee you Mecole Hardman's going to get 10 or 11 a year, maybe more.
That's what he's projected to get right now on Spot Track. So, and I think MVS is better than McCole. And if McCole gets that deal that he's projected to get on Spot Track, he'll be making more than MVS, and I'm much more comfortable with MVS. I think Mahomes is more comfortable with MVS.
Yeah, he came up big. I mean, that touchdown catch was very special, and just to see, I mean, he had a catch where Mahomes kind of threw it behind him and he went up and like brought it back. I was like, whoa, like he's kind of putting the offense on his back. And we need, again, we know our shit. Like, we were talking about it all week. We needed a secondary pass catcher outside of Travis Kelce to step up. They were going to double team Travis Kelce. It was just, that's what they were going to do. MVS was the secondary receiver to step up, and he went off. I think the Bengals, in their mind, he was the last guy they expected to beat them.
Yeah. And Marcus Kemp catching a pass, and Sky Moore with a huge return, which, oh my God, Michael, when I first saw Sky Moore go out there for a punt return, I'm like, Dave Tobe, you got to be kidding me. You're actually trying this again, but it paid off.
Fantastic return by Sky Moore, but I was kind of confused in the moment because I was like, who do we have to throw back there? Justin Watson didn't suit up. I don't think he was injured.
Yeah, he was inactive. He was sick.
And then everyone else was hurt. So there was nobody else besides Sky Moore.
When I saw Sky Moore go out there at first, I'm like, let's just not field the punt. Like, I would just let it bounce. But he proved me wrong.
That's so big for his confidence, too, to kind of put the team on his back and get some that play set them up for the game-winning field goal practically. So
yeah, because real quick, I went back and
go ahead.
Because I rewatched the game actually multiple times already today. And when I watched it, Sky Moore caught that ball at the opposite 20-yard line. And it's crazy to think he got that many yards because it didn't look like that big of a return. But when you look at the Chiefs field position after that, it was a huge return. Like, they needed those yards. And also, I know the Bengals fans, they were complaining all day on Twitter today about the officiating in this game. I'm sorry, we're complaining that the refs called the correct penalties on the I don't understand any sort of argument saying that the Chiefs helped or the refs helped the Chiefs win this game or that the refs screwed the Bengals out of this win. What wrong calls were made that actually affected this game badly for the Bengals? Okay, the one where the Chiefs were given a free down, all that did was take time off the clock, just a little bit more time, because the Chiefs ended up punting back to the Bengals anyway. The Chiefs didn't really benefit from that. And
did he get sacked on that play?
Yeah.
So they got better field position.
Yeah, he got sacked. So it didn't matter. And then all the other calls that went against the Bengals, like, they were legitimate penalties. Like, the play where Osai got called for unnecessary roughness for pushing Mahomes out. Like, that was unnecessary roughness. That's getting called 10 times out of 10. He was out of bounds. Like, I know it sucks watching the game end on a penalty and basically seeing a flag decide the game, but it was the right call. I'm sorry.
Listen, man, if that would have happened for the Chiefs, I would have been upset. I would have been frustrated, but it's the right call. What are you going to do? Like, he was clearly out of bounds. He was already like 3 steps out of bounds, and then he got brought down. And when I tell you that when that happened, the place went batshit. They knew. And weirdly enough, maybe I shouldn't have had this confidence. I knew Harrison Butker was going to hit that. And in fact, I think he could have hit it from 60 because Harrison Butker, in the moment, that guy is tough as nails, and he's going to hit whatever you put in front of him.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. And that's why I don't want Joseph Osai to get too hard on himself. And he doesn't need to cry, because I know he's like crying after the game, and I understand it, but he doesn't need to feel that bad, because guess what? I think the Chiefs were going to win either way. And I think if the Chiefs were in a position where Harrison Butker had to kick like a 62-yarder, they would have went for it, and he would have made it. I genuinely believe that.
He's on something, man. When he gets in these moments, he's locked in. And that's why I think that, it does suck to see a regular season game maybe get blown, but we seem to forget how much this dude comes up clutch for us. Like, yeah, he might miss a few extra points here or there, but when you need a kick, outside of Justin Tucker, there is not a single kicker that I would rather have kicking the football for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah,
he's gotten his stuff together. Like, I won't lie. I was about ready to be done with the guy halfway through this season, but he's gotten his stuff together. I don't know if it was the Tommy Townsend holds. I don't know if it was the Harrison Butker ankle injury. I don't know, but doesn't seem to be a problem now.
Yeah, and hopefully we didn't jinx it for the Super Bowl. But the point is, like, he has really stepped up. If you didn't have him kicking at his game, we would have lost last night. Could you imagine if that's how that game ended, or he missed one of them and that ended up being the deciding factor? And, we talked about it again all week. This game was probably going to be a 3-point difference, and the Chiefs were able to be on top this time.
Yeah, and I predicted that it would be a field goal in the final minutes to end the game. I just predicted it would be Evan McPherson for the Bengals and not Harrison Butker for the Chiefs.
Yeah, man. Again, I thought that game was going to end very differently with 2 minutes to go. I mean, they had what, 2 timeouts at the time? I thought this is easy. You run it with Joe Mixon, you get in field goal position. I think if you get to the 40 or 45, R45, he can make that field goal easily.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Harrison Butker was also huge because the Chiefs had to settle for field goals, but at least Harrison Butker made all the field goals. There could have been a scenario where he didn't make them, and the Chiefs are really SOL. The offense is really frustrating for those reasons too. Like they really needed to convert more in the red zone. They're going to have to against the Eagles in the Super Bowl for sure, because I think the Eagles will score some points as well. But and I know they had injuries. That's totally fair. And they also got a Isaiah Pacheco touchdown called back on a really ticky-tack call on Andrew Wiley for holding. But Harrison Butker came up huge because if he misses any of those, I mean, the Chiefs probably lose.
Probably, yeah. And I think that that's why having a kicker that is regarded as one of the best in the league is important. Like everyone has slumps, and I'm very appreciative that those slumps came in weeks 9, 10, or 11 and so on, and that he fixed it when it really mattered, because that's all that really matters. We don't play to win week 12. We play to win conference championship games.
Yeah, and another thing I want to point out as well is we talked about, or we hit on the importance of the Chiefs running the ball in this game. And we said, look, if the Bengals are going to do that thing where they drop 8 and they're rushing 3, you need to run the ball. And it also helps with Patrick Mahomes' health status, running the ball. But the running game wasn't really effective last night, like at all. They were not getting any push in the run game. Isaiah Pacheco is running into the backs of his blockers a lot. Jerick McKinnon wasn't really any different. Jerick McKinnon was important, though, again, because he's basically a 6th offensive lineman, and I understand why he plays so much. We said that the running game was going to be important, and it ended up really not being that much of a factor. They're going to have to run the ball better against the Eagles, but they were able to get away with not running the ball well on this one. But one scenario in which they didn't run the ball that really pissed me off was after the Jalen Watson interception in the first half, they came out with 0 points. And that really pissed me off. Not only because I understand that they didn't score points there. And yes, I wanted points, but that's not necessarily what I'm upset about. What I was really upset about is that they didn't run the ball once. They did 3 straight passes, which meant none of the clock was getting ran out. And
Just
if you
a little bit,
and if you ran it at least once, you run some clock out and the Bengals virtually have no time left. But the Bengals were able to get 3 points right before the end of the first half because there was enough time on them, or enough time for them on the clock to march down and get a field goal. And also, I will credit the Chiefs defense once again for standing them up in the red zone and forcing the Bengals to only take 3, because that was huge too. But that could have been a disastrous swing in the game.
It could have, yeah. And somehow, some way, the Bengals capitalized on our mistakes better than any team that I've ever seen, because on that Mahomes fumble, they went down and scored a touchdown. So it's really going to be important that in these future matchups, because I don't really have any doubts in my mind that we're going to see this team again in this game. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was next year, because the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be 2 forces to deal with in this conference for the next 10 years. Now, it might change a little bit when they have to pay Joe Burrow, but I'm telling you, man, like, they are a really good team that know how to win. And I can't say that about Buffalo. I can't say that about Baltimore. They just know how to win.
Yeah. And look, the conversations between Patrick Mahomes and whatever quarterback need to stop, because Patrick Mahomes is on another level. He's on a different tier, but Joe Burrow, he's definitely good enough to compete with him. And I agree with you. I think we're going to see the Bengals several times over the next few years in big playoff games, because they're just that good. Now, they have some free agents to retain this offseason, and, the Bengals, their ownership is notorious for being very cheap and not spending a lot of money. So I'll be interested to see how many of their players they can retain this offseason, and if they can get an extension done with T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow is going to need to be paid soon. So they're going to run
Chase.
Yeah, and they're going to run into some of those same problems soon. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Buffalo is going to find out here real quick, because their situation is even worse.
And it's weird because Buffalo, it kind of feels like they're done. Like that loss kind of felt like their window just closed because they went in. They put everything out on the line this year, and they got boat raced in their house in the divisional. They couldn't even get out of the divisional.
Yeah, that's crazy too. And this is where Brett Veach also deserves his flowers. Is we've had a lot of questions about him, we've had a lot of doubts about him, and yeah, there's still things that I get annoyed with when it comes to Brett Veach, but the Chiefs just ran through the AFC and went to the Super Bowl in what a lot of people consider to be a rebuilding year. The entire rest of the AFC loaded up just to beat them. And on top of that, the Chiefs have 12 draft picks in this next draft and a boatload of cap space. They're not going away.
You can get all the free agent acquisitions. You can get all the talent in the world. As long as the Kansas City Chiefs have 15 on their team, we're going to be in this game every year. We're still going to continue to win because, man, he's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I know that probably sounds very homerish, but just seeing what he's able to overcome. I mean, the running game being non-existent, him being on one leg, losing wide receivers by the dozens seemingly, and it doesn't matter. He finds a way to get it done. And that is something that, that's what Tom Brady did. And I know a lot of people hate Tom Brady, but that dude's a winner. He would find any way to get it done. And that's just what it feels like with Patrick Mahomes. Like, it doesn't matter the time. It doesn't matter what's going wrong. He's going to find a way to win because he's just a winner.
Yeah, and I think last night was just another example that you can point to that it doesn't matter who's on the field. Mahomes is going to get the job done. He was throwing to freaking Marcus Kemp, for God's sake, who has been like on and off the team for the past couple years and has never really played significant snaps at wide receiver. And here he is thrown into the fire last night in the AFC Championship, and he gets a key first down in the game. Mahomes can just get it done no matter who it is. He made Marquez Valdez-Scantling look like a wide receiver one last night. He did.
He really did. And I think it doesn't really matter who is at wide receiver. He's going to find a way to exploit the absolute best in them. And that's something that's so valuable for the Chiefs. One thing that I wanted to bring up is Chris Lamons was the ultimate loser last night. I kind of feel bad for him because he played all season for the Chiefs, and then he wasn't able to play in this game because he was technically on the Bengals. But yeah, Chris Lamons was the real loser last night.
Yeah, that really does suck. But at least it didn't result in the Chiefs losing or anything. So, I mean, it's fine. One more thing about MVS, though, like that touchdown pass that Mahomes had to him, I don't know if it looked like this in the stadium, because on the broadcast when it happened live, it looked like a pretty routine play. But when they showed the angle from within Mahomes' view in the pocket, that window closed like that. Like if that throw was a second later, the Bengals might have had an interception or just a pass defended. But that was such a good throw by Patrick Mahomes. Like that window was not open for very long, and he just rifled it in there to MVS.
He's so good at it. And one thing the Chiefs did also is, I think it was the touchdown to Travis Kelce. They went for it on 4th and 1. And I was like, okay, 1 yard. We just got to get 1 yard. And they dropped back to pass on 4th and 1. And I'm like, oh, no. And then Travis Kelce's wide open, and he gets hit for that touchdown catch. And I'm just like, well, it worked. But, man, the Chiefs are so good at trying something so ridiculous in short yardage situations because it just seems like, dude, just run the ball or bring in Blake Bell or bring in Jody Fortson or have Travis Kelce just jump over the pile to get a first down. But no, they have to make something super aggressive out of nothing. And it kind of hurt them at one point last night because they went for MVS on a deep ball on like 3rd down when all they needed was like 6 yards.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That hurt. That really hurt. But it's just, I mean, that's the kind of risk I guess they feel like they can take with Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not going to tell them they can't do it because it works sometimes.
Yeah, that was the first drive coming out in the second half, and that was frustrating because they went 3 and out to start the second half, and that's when I kind of felt like the Chiefs were losing momentum in that game. And they got the MVS touchdown later in the 3rd quarter, which ended up being huge because that was their last touchdown of the game. But that's what I'm saying, man. Like this game, I got real nervous because it felt like they needed just one more touchdown. It felt like they might get it, and then Mahomes fumbles. The Bengals tie the game up, And it's like, man, like I was so stressed out last night, man. I was so freaking stressed out. And I don't even really like look, if the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, like I'm gonna be upset because it's the freaking Super Bowl, and I hate getting all the way to the Super Bowl just to lose. It's a terrible feeling. But this win last night, like I honestly don't even care, man. Like if they lose the Super Bowl, yeah, it's gonna suck. But I wanted to win this game so freaking bad.
I've never wanted a game more than this game. And I understand what you're saying completely, because it just kind of felt like it took a culmination of greatness from each side of the ball, and things weren't going right, but they found a way to get it done in the end. And just to be at home and finally beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And after all the shit talk we heard all week, to win that game, man, I'm not saying that I don't care about the Super Bowl, but in a way that might have been our Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, and I agree. And I knew that the Chiefs heard all that stuff that the Bengals were saying. They didn't say too much this week responding to the Bengals, but man, after that game ended, the Chiefs let the Bengals have it. Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill and the defensive back group, they were smoking that Eli Apple pack on Instagram Live. Chris Jones looked into the camera and said, "Don't ever disrespect Arrowhead." We got another epic post-game speech from Frank Clark. Travis Kelce was dissing the Cincinnati mayor and said, "Bro, had my ass on live TV." Just the Chiefs let them have it, man.
I love it so much, because at the end of the day, some people are like, "Oh, if you don't trash talk all week, like you can't talk." Yeah, you can. You won this game. You absorbed it all. You had to take so much. And to have the national media doubt you, that's something that's just absurd. And they came out in this game, and they might not have won convincingly, but they're going to the Super Bowl, and Cincinnati's not. So you have every right to just open fire on that city. And like I said, I said this about Eli Apple. He was not going to be able to get on Twitter for the next 6 months. His mom deleted her Twitter account.
I saw that.
We got her, ladies and gentlemen. We got her. And just Cancun on 3. Just Cancun on 3.
Enjoy it. I'm sure he'll meet Stephon Diggs there, and they'll have a good time.
Yeah, probably. Man, winning that game meant so much.
And one more thing, it's kind of upsetting that no one brought this up or like made this a thing. So you know how the Bengals were complaining about the ticket sales for the potential neutral site game against the Bills, and they're like, "Oh, get your refunds," even though they sell tickets to every single game. The Chiefs should have just trolled them and complained about how they pre-made Bengals AFC champion shirts before the game actually happened, even though that's what they do for every single team, because that would have been hilarious. I wish someone had brought that up, because it would have made the Bengals look so dumb.
I'll tell you what, the Bengals might be going home sad, but the kids in Africa are going to be pumped when they see the 2022-2023 Cincinnati Bengals AFC Championship shirts. They're gonna use them better than they would.
For sure.
Oh man,
the Bengals may not have won last night, but those kids in Africa are getting a bunch.
Exactly. They're the real winners of this game.
Yeah.
Oh man, last night was a fever dream, dude.
I bet. I mean, shoot. Arrowhead almost caught on fire too.
Man, that was scary. It was right by my car too. I was kind of worried that I was going to have to walk home from Arrowhead. But, last night after what happened and just, going down on the field and just soaking that in, I would have walked home. If you told me I had to jog home, I would have done it, because it was incredible, man. And that's something that, again, we talked about this week. This was a legacy game, and it sucked because Mahomes wasn't fully healthy and the team was kind of a question mark, but this really had a lot on the line, and the Chiefs delivered. And just to be there, and the fans aren't ignorant. They know, like everyone knows, how important this moment was, let alone the fact that it was an AFC championship game. And just to be there, experiencing that, I mean, that place was loud, and it's a once in a lifetime experience. And I hope that you get to experience that one day and not an L.
I think I should just stop coming to playoff games for a while, a good long while.
Yeah. Haven't the last 2 games that you've gone to resulted in like bad losses?
Yeah. Bengals AFC championship last year and the Bills game in week 5 where they got their ass kicked and there was a rain delay.
Yeah. I think you should stay home and watch. That's where you can help the team.
Well, I plan on going to a Chiefs game at Mile High next season. So hopefully they don't lose to the Broncos. I do not want to be the reason that the Chiefs winning streak versus the Denver Broncos ends.
Yeah, please don't be. But one thing people always ask, like, you go to games, like that must be so fun. And going to games, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. Like, I'm not going to complain about it. It's great. But there is something to watching the game that is undefeated because you just know a lot more of what's going on because they're told what's going on. You get different angles. Like, we're kind of spoiled with how good the broadcasts are. I know a lot of people complain about Tony Romo and Jim, like Jim Nantz, but I really do like the CBS broadcast.
Yeah, and Tony Romo, I get annoyed with him because of some of the just fanboying stuff that he does, but he is a good announcer and he does know his stuff. And I do like the emotion that he puts into commentating on the game. Like he's almost like a happy little kid that just gets to watch football for a living. Like that's what he sounds like, and I like that. Like sometimes it's a nice switch up from like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman just like giving their ultra professional analysis on the game every play. Like I'm fine with Tony Romo like showing a little bit of fan. I just hate how sometimes he just will, like the Josh Allen love fest that he had. That was so freaking annoying, bro.
Yeah, that wasn't great. But I mean, also just watching the games, like you see and absorb a lot more of what's going on because like I'm standing there in the stadium and I don't know Juju Smith-Schuster's out of the game. But if you're watching the game, you're like, oh, no, he's down because you see it on the replay. You hear it. You just see the game a lot differently. And that's why watching it is definitely good too. But just –
well, and Tony is another one because he got up after that last catch that he made. And then he like sat down once he got to the sidelines, and then he just kind of disappeared from the game. Like you didn't really know if he was hurt, if you were there live.
Yeah.
Like they said it on the broadcast, so like, hey, Tony back to the locker room because they have the sideline reporter and everything. But if you're at the stadium, it's not like you would know that. And it's not like they put updates on the scoreboard or anything. Like,
yeah, you're kind of just left in the dark. Like I look
like,
up.
Like I can't imagine you're just watching and you're like, hold on, like, okay, Marcus Kemp's on the field.
I was like, what? I thought he was Jody Fortson at first. I thought it was Jody. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's Marcus Kemp. And then I was like, are they trying something like crazy here? And then I kind of came around to the fact that Juju and Mecole, Mecole's injury's bad.
Well, and I got to applaud him for toughing that out. He probably shouldn't have played in this game. And he's playing with an injury that I think 90% of the time requires surgery. Huge props to him for even trying to play last night and taking a hit, getting that first down. He probably knew a hit was coming, and he still caught that ball anyway and sacrificed his body to make that play and get a first down. So credit to him.
I don't expect him to play in 2 weeks, though. That's gonna be tough.
That'll be a tough one. I think Willie Gay will be fine. I think Snead will be fine. I think Tony will be fine. Juju's the other one I'm worried about, though. Like, he tweaked his knee again. Knee injuries are always kind of tough. He was also dealing with that knee injury at practice, too, this past week. So, we really needed this bye week, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, we did. And one thing that I also find interesting, don't get me wrong, after all of the trash talk the Chiefs have done, kind of getting their revenge, I still think this is a really humble group of guys. Like, when we won in 2019, that AFC Championship game, it felt like like they lost their mind, like that, because that meant something. That was the first in 50 years. But like as confident and cocky as this may sound, we expect to be in this game. So yeah, we celebrate. Awesome. We're the AFC champions. Today it's back to business. They got one more game, and I still think that everyone in there is focused on getting this next game. And I'm not saying that the Eagles aren't. Philadelphia was kind of burning itself to the ground, and they kind of, they acted in a way that's like the Chiefs are.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Chiefs, they know what it takes. They've been there before. The Eagles, they're a really young team, and they haven't done it before. Even though the Eagles won the Super Bowl just back in 2017, it was a different starting quarterback. It was a different head coach. It was a different group of receivers. Like, that team has changed a whole hell of a lot since last time they were in the Super Bowl. Meanwhile,
they had like a year ago.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the Chiefs, they have been in this game 3 out of the last 4 years, which is just crazy. Like, it doesn't even really feel like they were in 3 of the last 4, but they were. And I said it I said that it kind of feels like it isn't the case because it feels like there was such a large gap between them losing the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers in 2020 and then getting back to this one. But yeah, the Chiefs are in their third Super Bowl in 4 years. Pretty
So
crazy.
I have a question for you. When do you think that Patrick Mahomes is not going to play in an AFC Championship game?
The day he retires.
He is on one of the craziest runs we have ever seen. Like, no one's done what 15 has done. And I mean, man, if you get that one seed again, it's one game and it's oftentimes the worst team remaining. So just keep winning, baby. Just keep winning because this team, and again,
the Arrowhead Invitational is real.
It is. And in a year that nobody expected the Chiefs to be here, they were arguably the best form of the Chiefs we've seen, and they marched through the playoffs. And it's only going to get even more insane when we get more talent on this team.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I'm going to find this stat real quick. Go say something while I pull up the stat. I don't know.
Like, yeah, I just think that we have, 12 draft picks and a lot more cap space. We traded away Tyreek Hill. Bro, we're going to have a point where we're just going to have to spend money on somebody. And I expect us to, reload with talent. Again, this was kind of a down year. They always expect to compete with Patrick Mahomes, but they don't expect to go to the Super Bowl and expect to win the thing. And that is so incredible that in a down year per se, game away from a home second championship. And I'll tell you what, if he gets one this year, we might be looking at 4 or 5.
Yeah, which is pretty insane to say. So for some reason I can't find the stat that I sent earlier, but it was to one of my group chats, and it was something like Patrick Mahomes by age 20. Oh, actually, no, I know where to find it. Give me like 2 more seconds.
Patrick Mahomes is that guy.
Patrick Mahomes by age 28 has the most TD passes in the postseason. Patrick Mahomes at age 28 has 32 touchdown passes in the playoffs. The next closest is Brett Favre with 18. That's a massive gap. And the craziest part is Mahomes has only played on Wild Card Weekend one time. One time. And he has the most TD passes in postseason history at age 28.
Tell you what, he beat the hell out of the Steelers when that game happened. I remember they put up like 4 or 5. Tyreek was dancing with pom-pom. Dude, that game was crazy.
Yeah. I did not want the Chiefs season to end last night, man. I did not want it to end. And when it was going down to the wire, I'm like, come on, man, it cannot end like this. It cannot end with the Bengals marching down the field with 2 minutes left and scoring to win this game. I just wasn't ready for the season to end, Michael. And luckily we got a couple more weeks left of Chiefs football. The season is alive and they got a chance at the Super Bowl. It's just, I can't believe it.
I like the Chiefs' chances. I don't know. We're going to talk about this a lot after we kind of let this game settle. And I'm going to talk about it with you on my channel too. And we might talk about this game, honestly, for the next 3 or 4 days, because it's one of those wins that you can't just easily move on from, because think about what was at stake. Patrick Mahomes' legacy, in a sense, was kind of on the line. He would have been 2-3 in home AFC championship games. Joe Burrow would have been 4-0 against the Chiefs. The narratives that would have been spun, it would have been nasty. And they came out and they proved everybody wrong and they won this game. And in the fashion that they did, with everybody stepping up, it's a gutsy win. There's nothing else you can really say. And I kind of forgot where I was going to go with that. But I like the Chiefs' chances in the Super Bowl, just because I feel like the Bengals were the demon that they had to exercise, and they've done that now. And this is going to be a very confident group of players going into this stadium, and pair that with the fact the Eagles haven't played anybody. You have not played anybody close to the caliber of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that that's going to be a massive advantage for them.
Yeah. And the media did a quick 180 this morning, actually, when it came to the Mahomes debates. So, also, did you see Skip Bayless last night, right after the game? Or maybe it was this morning, but he tweeted Chargers to the Super Bowl next year. They're the crowning of the Los Angeles Chargers in the offseason for next year has already begun. And this season hasn't even wrapped up yet.
They hate us because they ain't us. And that Chargers are never going to do anything with that head coach. And I hate to say it, Justin Herbert is Phillip Rivers 2.0. And until he proves otherwise, he's a bum. Okay, he's not a bum, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. He's not Patrick Mahomes, that's for damn sure. Neither is Joe Burrow, neither is Josh Allen, neither is anybody. So stop comparing other quarterbacks to him. And all that is over.
People always say, like, you can't really identify true greatness until it's, like, past. Like, I think that is the biggest BS thing you could say. If you watch what this guy is doing, you don't have to, like, think about, yeah, is he great? Like, is he one of the best that we've ever seen? Aaron Rodgers has never done this. He never will do this. Like, what he's been able to do at such a young age, being so consistently great, we're never going to probably see it. We'll probably see it again, but maybe not in our lifetime.
No, and I mean, like, Darren Orlovsky is one of them. Like, this week, I don't know if you saw the clip of him basically saying, oh, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league, but Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the league. He's better at quarterbacking and reading the defenses and making the smart play and knowing what to do. And it's like, okay, first of all, how is Patrick Mahomes the best player in the league, yet not the best player at his position? That doesn't make any sense. And secondly, you're just wrong. Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback, too. Joe Burrow, Joe Fraud, threw 2 interceptions last night to rookies, day 3 draft picks. I don't want to hear it.
Exactly. And Mahomes is perfect. I mean, he had that one fumble, but didn't throw any interceptions, and it didn't matter. Who was bigger in their respective moments? It was Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow, I mean, granted, he kind of got destroyed by the Chiefs' defensive line, but I still think that it wasn't easy for Patrick Mahomes. He still had to overcome adversity. And if you kind of look at both of them and take at face value what they were both dealing with, I still think Patrick Mahomes was dealing with more.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He was out there on a high ankle sprain. And Brett Veach said after the game, I don't think people realize how much pain that Patrick Mahomes was in. That is an injury that most guys are out for like a minimum of 3 weeks. And he went out there on one leg with MVS as his wide receiver 1, no running game, and just won the AFC Championship.
And threw for 326 and 2.
Crazy.
Man, it's just we're so lucky, and we can't take this for granted because for 50 years ago, we were not doing this. Like, just there was so many playoff losses and so much heartbreak, and Patrick Mahomes has literally put the city on his back and said, enough. I'm here now. We're okay. And it's just, it's so incredible to watch. And they're not done yet. They got one more game. But again, it's going to be really hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes given what he's accomplished and overcome just to be in this game. The Eagles haven't overcome anything.
Yeah, and the Chiefs, they got a chance to, wouldn't it be cool to end their season in Arizona where they started their season and started it off with a win?
Yeah, it would be really special. And it'd also be special for Andy Reid to beat his former team. Because I'll tell you what, Andy Reid sometimes makes some questionable decisions. I think he's going to run laps around Nick Sirianni.
We were talking about that last night too, about how Sirianni, we couldn't really see him winning this game. And Andy Reid, we have more trust in him because he's done this before. Like, he's won a Super Bowl at this point. Nick Sirianni, yeah, and Nick Sirianni hasn't. And I'm not saying that he's not capable, because if you make it this far, you're capable. But I'm going to take Andy Reid in that matchup, I think.
Kyle Shanahan couldn't do it. And I trust Kyle Shanahan a lot more than I do Sirianni. It's going to be a good game. Trust me. But to kind of tie it back, I think that beating the Bengals was so important, obviously, to be in this game in the first place. But to get over that mental hurdle, it means a lot more than we'll ever find out. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. I'm on cloud 9. Like, we're going back to the Super Bowl. We beat the Bengals in our house. Electric. And if we see the kind of performance that we did in this game from the defense, we're beating Philadelphia, and we're going to have a parade in Kansas City.
Man, I hope so. I really hope so. I might even, like, Not, I might consider taking leave just to come back and go to that Super Bowl
Just go
parade.
AWOL. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I can do that too. But I mean, I went to the last Super Bowl parade because, I told my parents, I told my family, I'm saying, hey, I don't know the next time I'm going to get to do this again. And I feel the exact same way if they were to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know if this is, or I don't know when this is going to happen again. I'm going to freaking go to the Super Bowl parade. So
Can't take it for granted. Can't take it for granted.
Because there's that, but I also would really like to go to the draft because I know that's in Kansas City this year. So I'm thinking about going to that too. But I don't know. We'll see. The Chiefs have to win the Super Bowl first. So baby steps.
Exactly. Hopefully we'll be picking 32 though.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. But Michael, I think that's all I got for tonight. All we got. We're almost at an hour. We've been talking about this game. We'll do something on your channel tomorrow night. So I don't want to exhaust all of our talking points. But yeah, all that being said, where can the fans find you? Let's go with that first.
You guys can find me on YouTube, KC Sports Report, obviously. The website, kcsportsreport.com. One final thing that I do want to add is just it's been so fun to make content for you guys. And I appreciate you watching both of our channels and just kind of being very patient with me. I've been going to all the games and there have been a lack of recaps and a lack of videos that get posted, but you guys are still there for both of us, and we really do appreciate the support. And we got 2 weeks left to make the best content for you guys, and hopefully more after that, after a Super Bowl win.
Yeah, we're going to be crushing it here these next couple weeks. And if you guys haven't already seen Michael's post game from Arrowhead Stadium yesterday, go watch it. It will get you pumped up, I promise. So I will link all that stuff in the description so you guys can go check it out. As far as my channel, you're already here. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And for those of you that are already subscribed, like and share so more Chiefs fans can find this. And we will see you all. Oh, wait, no. Check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com lastly. And we will see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs.